Highgrove, once celebrated as the beating green heart of King Charles's eco-vision, is confronting its most uncomfortable season in 44 years. Behind the copper beech hedges and fragrant thyme walks, wheelbarrows stand idle, compost heaps go unturned, and the famed stumpery, normally a choreography of lichen-clad oak roots and woodland anemones, shows the first scruffy signs of neglect. The sudden loss of 11 specialist gardeners in a single 12-month stretch has crippled routine maintenance, but the real damage is reputational. Donors, paying guests on summer garden tours, even the Prince's Foundation trustees now whisper the same question: how could the sovereign who preaches harmony with nature preside over disharmony with people? Sources close to the palace paint a picture of cumulative strain. Staff contracts at Highgrove have long been governed by the foundation rather than the royal household, meaning no palatial pension, no subsidized housing, and crucially, no London waiting to cushion hourly wages that hover just pennies above the statutory minimum. During the pandemic, when visitor revenue collapsed, budgets tightened further. Overtime vanished. Training bursaries shrank. Yet expectations never dipped. Gardeners still rose at 5 a.m. to deadhead 4,000 David Austin roses before the first paid tour. They still top-dressed 9 acres of wildflower meadow by hand to avoid diesel compaction. They still presented a herbaceous border so immaculate that foreign dignitaries assumed it must be artificial turf. Into this already taut equation came Charles III's succession. Determined to keep Highgrove pristine while also grappling with Sandringham, Balmoral, Buckingham Palace renovation briefings and a grueling cancer regimen, the king doubled down on detail. Red-inked memos proliferated, some upbeat, peach cobbler outstanding, please replicate, some exasperated, erysium bowls mauve past its best, remove entire row by Thursday. Employees, accustomed to royal notes, say the volume became overwhelming, the tone edgy with exhaustion. One senior gardener confided to an external investigator that she received 37 microdirectives in a single morning, half the time I spent reading notes, not pruning. Morale sagged, productivity dipped, and what began as mutterings about workload escalated into formal grievances. The foundation's trustees, alarmed by rumblings of a walkout, commissioned a London HR consultancy to audit conditions. Their 47-page report, delivered in April, was blunt. Pay scales lag local public park gardeners by 11%, overtime is opaque, communication from senior management is inconsistent, at times brusque, and overall culture is task-centric rather than people-centric, risking further attrition. Most damaging were first-hand statements about Constantine Inami, Highgrove's executive director and confidant of the king. Employees alleged he used peremptory, at times belittling language, often attributing his own impatience to His Majesty's standards. Inami denies any bullying, insisting directness is necessary when the world's press judges every petal. Faced with incontrovertible evidence, the Foundation Board met in emergency session on the 9th of May. Minutes, leaked to the Sunday Times, show 4 immediate actions: commission an independent pay benchmarking study, install an anonymous whistleblowing hotline, mandate leadership skills training for line managers, and appoint an interim head gardener from Kew to stabilize operations while recruitment restarts. Perhaps most striking, the board also agreed that His Majesty's interaction with horticultural staff should be channeled through a single weekly briefing to reduce volume of ad hoc instructions. Courtiers translate that as code for, the king must step back. Friends say Charles accepted the recommendation, but only after making clear he will never apologize for striving for botanical excellence. Yet money, not memos, could decide Highgrove's fate. The benchmark study, quietly completed in June, recommended an across-the-board 14% rise, plus a £1.200 annual retention bonus. For a foundation whose post-pandemic reserves are slim, the extra payroll would require either hiking the £33.50 garden tour ticket, trimming educational grants, or persuading the king to divert private duchy income. Insiders insist Charles will cover the shortfall personally. After all, nothing threatens his eco-flagship like dead lawns and negative headlines. Indeed, 3 weeks ago the monarch instructed solicitors to draw £600,000 from Duchy of Cornwall surplus profits, technically now Prince William's domain earmarked for critical heritage horticulture. The Prince of Wales allegedly agreed within 24 hours, keen to avert PR fallout. Recruitment, however, remains daunting. The departing specialists possessed rare mid-career expertise, orchid propagation under organic regimes, master topiary, soil biology diagnostics. Replacing even half their collective knowledge could take 2 seasons. And spring 2025 looms, Highgrove's busiest visitor quarter, when 17,000 ticket holders expect herbaceous fireworks and alpine house perfection. To bridge the gap, Kew has seconded 2 horticulture graduates. The Sandringham team lent a turf specialist, and, in a gesture emphasizing family solidarity, Queen Camilla's private garden staff at Raymill have volunteered 3 days a month. Beyond logistics lies brand integrity. Highgrove is more than a private idol, it is the shop window for Charles' lifetime crusade: organic, regenerative, low-input agriculture. NGOs and governments cite its compost tea brewing and heritage seed orchard as proof that climate-positive land management can pair with aesthetic splendor. If the king cannot keep his own green cathedral functioning without staff misery, critics will weaponize the contradiction. Already, a Republican think tank has demanded Parliament scrutinize charitable foundation governance. A left-leaning tabloid ran the headline "Eco-King's Toxic Garden." In response, the Palace Press Office issued an unusually candid statement acknowledging the recent staffing challenges and vowing swift, robust improvements to ensure Highgrove remains a model employer as well as a model garden. Time and early spring bloom quality will reveal whether that pledge sticks. Meanwhile, Charles himself confronts a dilemma: throttle his perfectionism or risk narrative collapse. Friends suggest he has begun delegating micro-details, peach ripeness indices, compost heap temperature logs, to inner me, but old habits linger. Last week, during a private walkthrough, the king reportedly knelt to examine triple-planted violas, frowned at their spacing, and murmured, 2 inches too dense, airflow will suffer. Behind him, the new Kew interim head gardener nodded politely while making a mental note to re-explain the updated planting grid. Compromise, at Highgrove, is now a participatory sport. Yet there is optimism. The pay uplift has reignited applicant interest. 64 CVS arrived within 48 hours of postings on the Royal Horticultural Society jobs board. Former employees, proud of what they once built, have offered to freelance until numbers stabilize. And a June rain spell delivered lush regrowth to areas hit by maintenance gaps. If fresh hires bed in by autumn, and if Charles can channel his exacting gaze through improved communication, the estate may emerge stronger, an example not only of ecological resilience but of managerial self-correction. The alternative, a shrinking volunteer corps, patchy lawns, worldwide headlines about palace hypocrisy, is unthinkable to a monarch who has spent a lifetime proving that stewardship of land and stewardship of people are branches of the same tree. Highgrove's story, then, enters its most critical chapter. Can a garden designed as a hymn to harmony heal internal discord without losing the king's signature standard of perfection? The coming growing season will tell. For now, dew still settles on thyme-scented flagstones at dawn, blackbirds still trill atop the ha-ha wall, and in the walled kitchen garden a single ripe peach blushes beneath protective netting awaiting inspection from Britain's most particular horticulturist, and perhaps a more forgiving note penned in gentler ink.